All right, guys, can you hear me? Yes? No? Okay. Hey, guys. All right. I am here. I'm half asleep. It's really late. First question. All right, Kobe, what's the first question? Good. You're playing Fortnite? What's the test about? Multitasking, for Chipotle, labor market forces. Lots of stuff happening there. Okay. How many points of extra credit? 5. 5. Let's start there. That was an easy question. Chase, what is the test about? Unit 4 and Unit 5. So that's what it's about. Factor markets, labor markets, and Unit 5 was market failures, externalities, and taxes, equity, and income redistribution. So that's what the test is there. Are there going to be FRQs? No. No. There's 55 multiple choice questions. All right. Matt, labor market forces. What forces in the labor market? What do you want to know? I feel like that's a very generic statement. All of I had a sneak peek of a question. You guys are extra. I'm so tired. I'm so tired. Okay. I can't do this for an hour because I'm exhausted and I'm about to fall asleep. So I'm going to give you guys kind of like a rundown of what to study and then I'm going to go to bed. And that's going to be how this is pretty much going to go. So Kobe, can we have a brief overview of the entire test? I think that's kind of what I just said. I think. I'm not sure though. I'm telling you guys, I'm so tired. Okay, page 1, 4 questions. Comparing MRP and MRC. Come on, Bob. I sent it after you said it. It's sent after you said it. Okay, yeah. Maybe it's slow internet. I'm not sure. All right, so on page 1, there are 4 questions, and it's comparing MRP, MRC, and talking about profit maximization. So where would you find profit maximization on a schedule of MRP and MRC? How would you find it? So there's that. And then questions 5 through 8 are comparing labor demand and labor supply on a graph, the supply and demand of labor, and determining the wage rate from that graph. Equilibrium, yes, Kobe. All right. Questions 9 and 10 are on perfectly competitive labor markets. You have a graph of a perfectly competitive labor market, and then you have to answer a couple questions about the graph. I am perfectly competitive labor market. And then there's a couple questions about that. 11 through 15, compare price and use a schedule of data to find the MRP. Like you have to know the formulas. You have to know the formulas. Show us immediately, please. Wait, what? I already showed you. Stop playing Fortnite and pay attention, Jake Quellen. All right. And then I flash it. No. Formulas. MRP. And how you find the marginal revenue product of people. Was that better, Kobe? Kinsey, yes, the formulas are in Cami. In the labor markets, that we did before Thanksgiving, the week before Thanksgiving, that document. That's where they are. Okay. So where was I? MRP of the fourth rate. I mean, it's like, what do you gain when you hire a fourth worker? And what's your revenue from hiring the fourth worker? Oh, it's the ratio of 1. And on 16. Oh, we're on 16. Thank you, Kobe. I couldn't follow that. Jillian, MSB and MSC are the ones we're looking at for the Unit 5. I haven't gotten there yet. I'm still on Unit 4. All right. Jackie, so what's the main difference between monopoly and perfect comp? Is it the demand curve? Yes, but that was Unit 3, and we're on Unit 4 and 5 now. So if you're talking about perfectly competitive versus a monopsony, it's supply curves. Because in the labor market, remember, we're flipped upside down. So in the labor market, we're talking about a supply curve, and a supply curve of a monopsony is split between the supply and the MRC, and a supply curve for a perfectly competitive labor market is a perfectly elastic line, not demand curves. Chase, please delete this video tomorrow so I can screenshot that graph tonight. And what? And sell it, Chase? Yes, Jillian. You are correct. MRP. MERP. That's what we're talking about. Okay. So we're on 16. On 16 through 19, the questions are on an imperfectly competitive market. Like that. Selling answers. Chase is the new Ralph. Yeah, he'll sell the answers for $3. So 16 through 19 are on imperfect, like a monopsony, right there. And looking at that graph, looking at a monopsonistic graph, like how much do you pay people? How many people do you hire? That kind of thing. Does a monopsony have a demand curve? Yes. A monopsony does have a demand curve. All right. Yeah. Okay. So that's through 19. Now picking up on 20 through 24. Again, formulas. Find the MP. Find the MP. The next questions. 21, 22, 23. So 24, 25, and 26, you're given a schedule of data for a perfectly competitive labor market and told to find the wage rates. How much do you pay? And how many people do you hire? And then the next 4 questions. Oh, wait, there's a lot of questions here, and I'm not following them. Doesn't one of them have something the other doesn't? MRC curves, Kenzie. The imperfect market, I just showed you. Imperfect, you have supply and demand, and you have that MRC right there. And schedule is a fancy name for table, Kobe. MRC curve, remember I told you, you can't just hire a new teacher and pay them the same. Like if you hire that new teacher and you pay them more money, you have to pay me more money too. So that's why there's that MRC curve. Your costs are higher than your supply in an imperfect market. So MRC is here. In a perfect market, in this one, S equals MRC. They're the same. Okay. So I hope that answered your question, Kinsey. Kobe, I told you a schedule, it means table. So in economics, whenever you hear the word schedule, it means table, or if they say draw a schedule, they mean make a table of the data. The test is tomorrow, Stephanie, just like it has been since last week when I told you that it's tomorrow. Okay. I forgot what number I was on, but I have a page open here, so I'm just going to pick up there and go from that. Table of data, how many workers, how much they produce, the price of the unit. How many people do you hire? How many people do you hire? A lot of questions on how many people do you hire, which was all in the document that we did, how to find that number based on productivity and wage rates and product price. Okay. The next set. What is the marginal product? At what price would we be selling these shoes? How many workers would you hire? And how much profit would you make? Those are the questions. So, okay. So how many people do you hire? Where MRP equals MRC, my dear. So you're going to find where MRP equals MRC and drop down to your quantity on your horizontal axes. And then you pay them the rate of the supply curve. You guys are making a lot of really fancy little faces. I see a shrug. I see a smiley face. I see a shrug. I can't tell what this one is. I don't know. There's a star, though, Connor. I don't know what this means anymore. Okay. And that's all the questions on Unit 4. Kalia. Oh, it has a magic wand. Okay. I get it now. Is that Harry Potter? It's Hermione Granger. Okay. I'm going to go in order. Kalia, why is the supply curve of a perfectly competitive firm horizontal, but the market is upward sloping? Because the market follows the laws of supply and demand, but it's perfectly competitive. And because it's perfectly competitive, as a company, you're a wage taker. Whatever wage the market decides is how much you have to pay your workers. So that means that equilibrium in the market pulls over to your firm, and that's your firm's wage rate. So your supply curve is set, and it's perfectly elastic. I don't want to confuse you too much, but it's the exact same rules as Mr. DARP in the product market. Just like in the product market for Mr. DARP, you had supply and demand, and that formed your perfectly elastic demand curve. In the factor market or the labor market, the supply and demand's equilibrium is what forms that perfectly elastic supply curve, a straight line supply curve, and it sets your wage rates. So you're a wage taker. So there's that. If that answers your question, let me know. If it doesn't, let me know. Kinsey, MRP equals MRC and drop down to Q to find your quantity. And then you take that quantity and you go up to your supply curve and over to find your wage rates. You pay based on your supply curve, but you hire the quantity based on your MRP, MRC, because it's imperfect. Example of problem about hiring. I'll read it to you. That's fine. What number was this on? All right, here. Refer to the diagram. Assuming no union or relevant minimum wage, the firm represented will hire A, Q2, B, Q2, C, Q3, and D, Q4. And then they each have a different wage rate. So you have to determine which quantity and which wage rate go with the graph that's on there. So you have to know where to find those equilibriums and find their wage rates. Okay, example. All right. I don't know who MUZ is and Connor, but I'm going to kick you off of commenting if you keep wasting my time. I already told you I'm really tired. 55 questions, Stephanie. All multiple choice, no FRQs. Wait. What? I'm trying to keep up with this. Oh, okay. 27. What is economics? The study of choices and strategic decision making, weighing trade-offs and options due to scarcity. If that was a relevant question. If not, that's fine. All right, thanks everyone. Wait, repeat the question. Okay, repeat the question. Refer to the diagram. The firm represented will hire, and then 4 different options, and you have to choose one. Yeah, rewind the video. I didn't know you can do that. Okay, all right, so now I feel like I've caught up. Okay, so I told you I finished all of Unit 4, right? So now I'm moving on to Unit 5. Kalia, let me come back to that because I'm just going through the test real quick, and then I'll come back to answer your question. Wait, Amanda, what? Amanda, Unit 4 questions focus mostly on how many people to hire. Yeah, MRP equals MRC. Yep, that's pretty much it. How to find MRP, how to locate on a graph MRP and MRC, knowing the different graphs for perfectly competitive and imperfect, a monopsony versus perfectly competitive market, and being able to read those graphs. But also, if given a table or a schedule, doing the math. And you guys did the math on the document on Kami, where you had to find the MRP, and you found the equations, you did the math, and then you plotted it. So just reread it, make sure. Matt, I will get to Lorenz. How do you math? I don't math. I'm a history teacher, you guys. Fair or both. Sometimes it's a table with numbers and you actually have to do math. So bring a calculator. You'll appreciate that because you will not be allowed to use your phone. And sometimes they're graphs and you have to read. For not mathing, I do a lot of math. Yeah, I know. It's really a joke. Okay, I'm going to do Unit 5 really quick so I can get through it because this Unit 5 has 20 questions. So I just want to run through those. And then I'll come back to whatever topics I need to, okay? So for the Unit 5, the first page of Unit 5 is all public versus private goods, characteristics or examples of, or why. Why do we have public goods? What's the reason that the government provides them? So that's page 1. Page 2 is going to ask about Coase theorem. Coase theorem, we did a whole day on that, and private property rights, and when property rights aren't established, what happens in the marketplace. And if you remember, like this company was polluting, and this company was water rafting and didn't want polluted water. And so there was that headbutting, and society would be better off, everyone would be better off if they didn't pollute, but you have to pay them to not pollute because they make more money if they do. If you remember that lesson. If not, reread it. It was on Kami. What is the negotiating? Yes, Kalia, negotiating. And when they were negotiating that to figure out what was the best rate to pay those people, if you remember. And they had to pay them more than they make by polluting, but less than they make when there's not polluting. So they had to find that happy medium. Yes, Kinsey. I think my chat is slow, so I think you're asking me questions that I may have already said. What is Coase theorem? It's not Coase, it's Coase, C-O-A-S-E, Kobe. And it's the Coase theorem is the not clearly defined property rights and the externalities caused when property rights are not clearly defined. I think that was the day you were on TLE, actually, Kobe, that day. Okay, so so page 2 is what is socially optimal, like where should society be. Page 3 gives you a graph, a pollution graph with marginal cost and marginal benefit, and asks you to find talk about the different points. What is socially optimal? What is going to happen here? And basically questions about MSB and MSC, marginal social benefit, marginal social cost. And it also is going to ask about free rider problems. Something we didn't do in class, but is on here. Tricky. So take this away as the people who are here. So the 30 of you will get this. There's a question here on asymmetric information, and that's when one person in an exchange has more information than the other, so they can get a better deal because they know what's happening and the other person is unsuspecting. So the answer to that question is asymmetric information. And there's also a question on moral hazard, and that's when people make poor decisions because they think they're safe. So there's that. Okay, that was page 3. Final questions are on tax schedules and identifying which kind of taxes, progressive, regressive, or proportional, the different tax schedules are. There are no questions on the Lorenz curve. There's no questions on Lorenz, and there is no questions on Gini. I can still go through how to find those if you want me to tonight, but I'd really, really like it if you didn't and you ask me tomorrow when I've slept. Can't talk. Questions on externalities. Yes, Kinsey, that's MSB and MSC. MSB is a positive externality and MSC is a negative externality. So that's what those are. I totally just forgot what I was talking about, you guys. Wait, those were easy. Would you like me to add questions to this test on Gini and Lorenz? I can try and find some, if that's what you would like. I don't understand why we're talking in Greek. I think that's Greek. How to get an A. Who is Dude of Honor? Actually, it's Russian. I don't know. The only person that speaks Russian is in ACE and not in AP. All right. Taxes. MSB and MSC. Public and private goods. Microeconomic. Tax schedules. До свидания. Taxes. I don't know if you could see those. Tax incidence is not on this test. I don't know if you remember or not, but we did tax incidence of taxes back in Unit 2, I believe, is when we talked about it. So I've already given you on a test a long time ago. Okay, so I was going to tell you, the taxes I just showed you, you have to look at those and determine which of these are progressive, which of these are regressive, and which of these are proportional taxes. Now, it's kind of a tax schedule. It's a lot less complicated than the IRS tax schedule. And so when you look at this, then you'll have to figure out falling asleep. Progressive, regressive, and proportional taxes. I'm so out of it. Can I get your number? No. All right. Okay, guys. Any other questions? Oh, least cost combination of resources. All right. The least cost combination is when you are trying to least cost is when you're comparing the amount of money spent on labor versus capital to make sure you're maximizing your output based on the cost. And so when you're finding least cost, you're doing the marginal product of labor, MPL, divided by the price of labor. And you're going to set that equal to the marginal product of capital divided by the price of capital. So that way you can make sure they're equal to each other and you're spending the appropriate amount of money on labor versus capital to maximize your output. Did that make sense? Stephanie, yes. Okay. De nada. You're weird. All right. I'm going to go to bed, and then I will see all of you guys tomorrow. And don't stay up all night studying. I promise. I think the Unit 5 stuff you guys really know. I think you'll breeze through it. We just did it this past week, so you will be fine. I would say if you're going to study things, go back to the Unit 4, the labor market that was posted on Cami, and just read through it. Don't go through all the math and stuff again, but if you go to each page, you can read the introduction, and it'll kind of just refresh in your brain the formulas and what you need to do. And if there's anything that you're really confused on, read it there, because that's going to probably be your best bet. So, all right. Good night, you guys. Don't stay up all night studying. I promise it's not worth it. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow. All right? Yeah, get some sleep. I'm going to try. I don't sleep often. So, all right.